Lord, we would like to give thanks today for this opportunity. We give thanks for all of the knowledge, the courage, and the understanding that you have provided. We ask for your protection, for your help, and for your guidance. Together, and with you at our side, we will work to ensure our future generations will celebrate the freedoms that were intended. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. I'd like to open things up for citizen participation. Anyone that is here that wants to speak to something not on the agenda, please approach the podium and we'll give you 5 minutes to talk. Seeing absolutely no one new here, we're going to go ahead and go on and close citizen participation. Consent agenda. I need a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 7-0. Boards, commissions, and committee schedules. Please note we have a Board of Adjustments meeting October 1st, 2020, City Council October 6th, 2020, a Planning and Zoning meeting October 5th, 2020, which is in reverse order, and that's going to mess with me, and another City Council meeting October 20th, 2020. Moving on to item number 5 on the agenda, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 20-37 by title only.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the execution of a first supplemental STP urban program agreement with Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for the design and right-of-way acquisition for the extension of the Schuler Creek Trail.
Mr. Bergner is here, and he gave you an overview last time. He's here tonight to answer any questions you might have. Does anyone on the council have any questions? Seeing no questions, I now need a motion and a second for final passage of Bill 20-37.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We are now going to take a roll call vote. This roll call vote will be done electronically on your computers. So, I'm going to read this so I don't get this wrong. Is voting now open?
Yes.
Voting is now open. Please click refresh, place your vote, and hit submit.
Did you hit refresh? The blue?
Hmm.
Hit that, yeah, hit this.
I did
where
that.
It says it's gone through.
All right, it appears the ordinance is passed 7-0. We did it. Good work. All right, moving on to item number 6. I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 20-38 by title only.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries 7-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into a development agreement with Convoy of Hope for waterline public improvements.
Now, I understand that we have a proposed amendment to this bill. A memo from the city attorney has been provided outlining the proposed amendment. Is that correct?
Yes.
Excellent. With this information, I move to amend Bill 20-38 by replacing attachment 1 with the updated attachment 1 that is dated September 15th, 2020. I need a motion to amend, a second for the motion to amend Bill 20-38.
Second.
All those in favor? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of amending the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? The amendment passes 7-0. Now, we are here with Mr. Nelson, and I believe Mr. Cameron also probably weighed in last time. to give you their thoughts from last time. They're here to answer any questions that you might have going forward. All right, seeing no questions, I now need a motion and a second for final passage of Bill 20-38.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Now we're going to take a roll call vote. So, voting open, hit refresh.
Yours went through.
Yes.
I think it's just delayed. Yep, yeah, hit refresh. There you go. Go ahead and click on your note. And hit submit at the bottom, submit. There you go. Click on that. There you go.
It's ready.
And the ordinance passes 8-0. I'm counting that right now, right?
Yes.
All right, excellent. Moving on to item number 7, I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 20-39 by title only.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into an amended development agreement with the Republic R3 School District for waterline public improvements for the future Early Childhood Education Center.
Mr. Nelson's here to answer questions and give an overview of what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We revisited our agreement with the school for the Early Childhood Center. If you recall, that was a agreement where we installed water line for them, for their project, similar to all the other developer agreements that we're doing. One difference is, we've started, when we see a mutual benefit to the city, we start considering not having them reimburse us for our labor because of the mutual benefit to our system. So when we looked back at this, we were able to replace an aging main connection with a larger 10-inch loop. That not only improved our system, but it also provided us a lot more flexibility for J.R. Martin Park for future improvements there. with that, we're recommending that we consider not being reimbursed for our labor on the project. That reduces our total invoice amount to the school from $44,973.13 to $29,025. I got that backwards. I can't say it. There's no decimals there. $29,025. There we go. That's it.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Have you talked to the school about this? What's their position on it?
Yes, I talked to Jason Perkins. They're very appreciative of that consideration. They've budgeted for it either way because the original agreement was for all costs being reimbursed, but they're appreciative of the consideration.
What's your time frame for getting all this done?
We're done.
Great, good work. Any other questions? All right, seeing no other questions, remember this is a first read, so if you have any other questions, please get with Mr. Nelson before the next meeting. Moving on to item number 8, which is a public hearing. At this time, I will open up the public hearing on the annexation of approximately 0.22 acres of land located northeast of the northeastern right-of-way line of Missouri State Route 360 and adjacent to the right-of-way. If there is anyone here wishing to speak to the council on this matter, please approach the podium and you will be given 5 minutes to speak. Ms. Haynes, did you want to talk?
Yes, please. I'm going to show you first the reference parcel. It is up on the map, and it is going to be described as this very small triangle. And this is right on the northeast side of James River Expressway. Just for a larger scale picture, this is MM Highway crossing over James River. So it's at the northwest intersection of that particular intersection. The property owner, Terrassa LLC, has submitted a voluntary annexation request for the subject property. City water and sanitary sewer service is available in proximity to the property. Subsequent review of water, sewer, and stormwater will be considered at the time of development application and/or rezoning application. The subject parcel is compact and contiguous with city limits of the City of Republic, as the subject parcel is surrounded by properties in the city to the north and east. So the entire area surrounding this particular parcel is in the City of Republic. The future land use designation of the subject parcel is neighborhood commercial. This would include commercial uses permitted in the local commercial or C1 zoning district. Development in the vicinity of the subject parcel is industrial and manufacturing. The annexation, if approved by council, will effectively zone that subject parcel as A1 or agricultural in accordance with City Code Section 435.010B, which requires all annexation properties to be classified in the corresponding Greene County zoning designation. Staff does believe the annexation of the subject property is consistent with the city's comp plan as an area of future growth for the City of Republic, and it does enjoy immediate access to the City of Republic services. We are recommending approval.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Haynes? All right. Seeing there are no questions, remember this is a first read, so if you have any questions, please get with Ms. Haynes before the next meeting. And with that report, I will also close the public hearing. Moving on to item number 10, I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 20-41 by title only.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri approving the annexation of approximately 0.22 acres of land located northeast of the northeastern right-of-way line of Missouri State Route 360 adjacent right-of-way.
Thank you. Mr. Tabor is here to give a,
I'm sorry, I'm on the next one.
oh, I'm sorry. I messed up, and we're trying to fix it on the fly, and it's not working out super well, so I'm just gonna do a little bit of a take back. If anybody wants to object to Robert's Rules of Procedures, I've messed it all up. So, here's what's going on. We had a public hearing. I didn't close it at the proper time. Ms. Haynes came up and talked about the public hearing, right? So we did that. That's right. That's item number 920-40. Again, we're not doing a vote right now. I'm just clearing up what went wrong. I moved on to 20-41. I don't think Laura knew that because I didn't make it clear. So let's start with this. I'm moving on to item number 10, 20-41. I need a motion and a second for the first read of Bill 20-41 by title only. 20-41.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Now that we fixed all that, motion carries 8-0. Mr. Taylor.
What we have is a special use permit application. The applicant, Megan Sirk, has applied for a special use permit for the operation of a group daycare home at the address of 432 South Sherwood Avenue. The applicant property is in Lot 41 of Sunshine Estates, Phase 2, which is about 0.18 acres in size. The applicant currently occupies the home of the parcel, and the zoning for this property is high-density, single-family residential. Residential dwellings border the property on the north, south, and the east. The applicant is seeking the approval of the permit to create a structured environment for children attending school virtually right now. The application for the special use permit for a group daycare home, if approved, would allow the provider to care for not more than 10 children who are not related to the provider. No more than 2 of the children may be under the age of 2 without a full-time assistant. The applicant currently has a general business license with the city to operate as a family daycare home. This license limits her facility to no more than 6 children. The applicant is working currently with the State of Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services to acquire a state license. The class of license she's pursuing with the state is as a family child care home. This classification mirrors the limits of the city, allowing for a maximum of 10 children with no more than 2 under the age of 2. The state has indicated to the city that a license will not be issued to Ms. Sirk unless she is in conformance with the city's zoning, and the approval of a special use permit as described would place her in conformance, making her eligible for her state license. Granting this special use permit is expected to have only incidental impact on the city's water and sewer systems. Traffic created by this use that is not originating from the neighborhood itself would likely approach the site from either Miller Road, classified as a secondary arterial, or Basswood Avenue, classified as a collector. If approved, this special use would be subject to a limit of 5 years, after which Mrs. Sirk could apply for a renewal. The renewal process is the same as the process for the initial approval of the application, and if approved, the permit would only be valid for Mrs. Sirk and only at the specified location, 432 South Sherwood Avenue. Staff recommends the approval of the proposed special use permit for Megan Sirk at 432 South Sherwood Avenue, but would like the council to consider placing a condition upon the permit. Generally, the city would like to require a copy of the state license. The city would require a copy of the state license during the review process for this item. However, as the state license requires zoning conformance before approval, staff is recommending that a condition be placed on the permit, making its validation contingent upon the applicant's possession of the state license. Basically, since the two things are going on at the same time, if ours finishes first, we would like to require that she have that license in order to operate.
Mr. Mayor, just for your sake and council members' sake, that request is in the ordinance already. So it was a request that was made and it is in the ordinance, what planning and zoning is recommending.
Do we have any questions? Seeing no questions, please remember that this is a first read. If you have any questions, please get with Mr. Tabor before the next meeting. Moving on to item number 11, 20-42. I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 20-42 by title only.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending the municipal code of the City of Republic, Missouri by amending Title V, Building and Construction, Chapter 500, Building Codes and Building Regulations, Article 1, Adoption of Building Codes regarding snow load.
Mr. Nelson's here to give us an overview. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In recent review of a commercial building application, we found that we are inconsistent with the IBC on snow loading for our area. Sorry, I'm going to apologize for the quality of the map, but we can only get it in print. So basically, Republic is in southern Greene County and portions of Christian County, which would be right under the 15 designation for snow load. So we're updating our ordinance to be consistent with the IBC for snow loading,
What's IBC?
the International Building Code.
Oh, BC.
Sorry. B.
My wife says I can't hear it anyway, so it's fine.
My wife says I mumble.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Nelson? Mr. Franklin?
What sort of a snowfall event would 15 pounds per square foot be?
I can't answer that, but I can find out. It
Just kind of
it
curious.
depends.
On the wetness of the snow?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, generally, if it's a dry snow, it would take a lot. It's kind of that, how much does a pound of feathers and a pound of bricks weigh?
Yeah,
kind of
whether
thing.
it's wet or dry.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is ice considered a violation?
It's considered in the overall load. So they establish these lines, best I can tell, based on climate, lines that are somewhat arbitrary in my professional opinion. But they consider all of that in snow loading, yes.
All right. If you have any other questions, please get with Mr. Nelson before the next council meeting. Moving on to item number 12, 20-43. I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 20-43 by title only.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending the municipal code of the City of Republic, Missouri by amending Title IV Land Use, Chapter 405 of Zoning Regulations, Article 4 of Plan Development District regarding plan development districts.
Ms. Haynes is here to give us an overview of the ordinance. Ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor. The proposed amendments to the current PDD ordinance include general revisions to language in the ordinance and also the following sections. Section 405.230 in regards to procedure. We are requesting removal of a requirement for at least 3/4 vote of the total membership of City Council if the Planning and Zoning Commission does not recommend approval of a PDD application. The reference vote is not a requirement in Missouri state statutes. The next section, 405.240, development plans. The proposed amendment requires a PDD application to be in conformance with other adopted plans of the City of Republic. This would include, in addition to the comprehensive plans, transportation plan, the land use plan, future land use plan, parks master plan, and the water and wastewater master plans. The final section, 405.260, plating. This proposed amendment to phased and unphased development requires completion of the construction and approval of the final plat for the development within a specified time frame. In instances when phased construction is not planned, improvements and approval of the final plat must be completed within a time frame of 4 total years. In phase construction, the first phase must be completed within 2 years from the date of approval of the development plan, and then all subsequent phases must be constructed and final platted within a total of 8 total years. The Planning and Zoning Commission did hear this last night, and they did recommend approval.
Do we have any questions from council for Ms. Haynes? All right, seeing none. Please remember this is a first read, so if you have any questions, please give the staff. All right, moving on to item number 13, 20-44. I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 20-44 by title only.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving the final plat of the Charlotte Mill subdivision.
Ms. Haynes is here to give an overview.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Republic's Community Development Department received a final plat application for the Charlotte Mills subdivision last month. The final plat will legally divide approximately 9 acres of land into 28 residential lots. It also includes the dedication of right-of-way, utility, and stormwater easements. The preliminary plat was approved by City Council in April of 2019. Staff has reviewed the final plat and has determined its substantial conformity with the requirements of the code section. We are recommending approval of the final plat, and since we have the map available, I just want to point out exactly where this subdivision is. It is at the northeast corner of Kansas Avenue, which is right here, and then West O'Neill Street. So it does include the 2 existing homes, and then you can see the aerial photography was taken during construction. It is this long rectangular piece and also this piece, but it is at the northeast intersection of O'Neill and Kansas.
Do we have any questions from council? I see no questions. Please remember, this is the first read, so if you have any questions, please give the staff. Moving on to other business, specifically resolutions. Item number 14 on the agenda, 20-R-33, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri adopting the 2020 Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. I need a motion and a second to take up resolution 20-R-33.
Motion.
We got lots of motions. All right. Madam Clerk, will you read the Emergency Management Director Lynn Hollingsworth is here to give an overview.
Yes, good evening. For some of you who have been here for a while, you've been through a couple of these cycles with the mitigation plan. It's a plan that's developed for a 5-year period of time in which we list projects that we feel would be an improvement to the city by mitigating the hazards involved. It involves flooding, a variety of different items. The planning on this started last May in 2019, May of 2019. We'd hoped to have this plan presented to council by April, but the world events of COVID changed that considerably. The work was completed and processed to the federal government in last October of 2019, almost a year ago, and the finished product was not produced and back to us until the second week of August. So some of these things in these projects, due to the changes and the tremendous movement of the city, are already being addressed. So some of it is already becoming outdated to a point. Because I try to keep our projects broad, and I base all of the information coming from the information that was provided through Public Works, through engineering, through public safety, to what is best for the city. So you will see in there, in the few pages I included for this exhibit, because the actual multi-jurisdictional plan, which we will put on share drive somewhere, is 876 pages. And I really didn't think you wanted to look through 876 pages. So I put in what was pertinent for our city. And we are addressing some issues with flooding. We are looking at some studies for water movement, simply to see what we can do in the future to improve the quality of life for our citizens and also for the region. Because you have to remember, when we're dealing with stormwater, we're putting it somewhere else. So it is a regional issue, and that's part of the reason we do a multi-jurisdiction with the county as a regional player. We're also looking at traffic management, how to better that, and pedestrian travel. You will see that one of the plans in there is talking about the pedestrian bridge over 60. What this does is, by identifying these points that we do not have the current financing to deal with, if that funding becomes available through the federal government, it is listed in our plan, which gives it a higher priority. The bottom line, this is simply about getting future monies available to the city. That is reviewed constantly. We give updates on it yearly, and in 5 years, we'll start another plan to see where we're at. A couple of projects listed in here are still ongoing from the last cycle, but we are closing in on them. As you can see with the improvements Public Works is making with Lift Station 2, some of those things are already being worked on. So with that said, I ask you to approve and adopt this plan so that we can move forward. Is there any questions?
Well, as this is a resolution, we can move immediately to a vote for approval. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0.
Thank
sir.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to item number 15 on the agenda, 20-R-34, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving a preliminary plat for Greenfield Estates, a residential subdivision consisting of approximately 23.48 acres located at the 7500 block of West Farm Road 174. I need a motion and a second to take up resolution 20-R-34.
Motion.
Second.
We have motions and seconds. Ms. Haynes is here to give us an overview.
Thank you. So I'm going to try to make this work with technology and going over the report. First thing I want to point out, just a couple of items. This is the subject property that we're talking about right here for Greenfield Estates. And I'll go ahead and bring up the preliminary plat so that you can see that as I'm working my way through the report. So the preliminary plat for Greenfield Estates would subdivide 23.48 acres of property, zoned high-density, single-family residential into 82 residential lots. We have reviewed it for compliance with the preliminary plat requirements of the code. We have found that to be in compliance. There are a couple of things I will point out. As far as compliance with the comp plan, The high-density, single-family residential zoning district requires a minimum square footage of each lot of 7,000 square feet. The average lot size of lots within the subdivision are 7,774 square feet. The preliminary plat proposes one new street connection to West Farm Road 174, that is Bailey Avenue, identified right here, and also a new street connection to Timber Oak, which is right here. And I'll show you just on our aerial photography. Timber Oak is an existing street, and it will eventually go through the 12 Stones development, which is right here, into Greenfield Estates. In addition, the subdivision will include public streets internal to the subdivision, which will include approximately 5,463 feet of street and sidewalk. Next to note, the site is in proximity to two 10-inch water mains. Our subdivision requirements do require a looping of the water main system in order to provide water for the subdivision. The water main itself will connect across the undeveloped 12 Stones property here to a water main that's existing on Timber Oak, and also to an existing water main up here in Westwood Estates. So a loop across 12 Stones through the subdivision and connect up here to Westwood. The site is also in proximity to an 8-inch sanitary sewer main that is located down here in this subdivision on Timber Oak Street. It's approximately 345 feet across 12 Stones. So there's actually an opportunity to connect the sanitary sewer for Greenfield Estates either through the 12 Stones property here to a sanitary sewer main, or down through Rankin Acres, which is down in undeveloped Greene County. The preliminary plat of Greenfield Estates has been platted for the 82 single-family lots. We did review it for compliance with floodplains and sinkholes. The subject property does not contain any floodplain areas. It also does not contain any sinkhole areas. The preliminary plat was reviewed last night at Planning and Zoning, and it was recommended for approval. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes.
Is this going to put more stress on the Schuler Ridge lift station? Is that not the one we've had some issues with in the past?
Yeah, we identified that as part of our evaluation. Regardless of whether the sewer makes this connection here or if it makes a connection down here in Rankin Acres, it will flow basically down Hines Street, down to Schuler Creek, which is really down here. Schuler Creek does have the capacity currently to handle 82 residential lots. And just for general reference, because we really haven't had the opportunity to do this before, the Schuler Creek being down here at Christian County, everything that flows by gravity to Schuler Creek is then pumped up through force mains to the wastewater treatment facility, which is on the northwest side of town. Sorry about the map issues.
So, Mr. Self, in relationship to that lift station, what the challenge is with Schuler Creek is that was expanded in 2016. That was a complete refabrication of that lift station. The challenge with Schuler Creek is that when the consolidation of Brookline took place, they never adjusted. So they redirected the flow of Brookline through the McElhaney lift station down through the Schuler Creek lift station. The challenge with capacity of Schuler Creek and McElhaney as well is not indicative upon these developments. It's upon what we're doing in Brookline, which is why part of the discussion we're having is running that kind of an interceptor sewer line from Brookline to the wastewater plant, taking all the load of Brookline. What that was never intended for the development or the design of Schuler Creek, that flow, that was probably one of the pieces that was missed in that part. Was it should have been redirected, probably for cost. It was not. So really, a lot of the development that's happening in Brookline is probably what's driving the capacity concerns or future capacity concerns, because Schuler is designed for this development specifically. it was not necessarily originally designed to handle Brookline. And so what has to happen with all the development that's taking place out there is, again, one of the things that we're going to be bringing to the voters is for the sewer issue and the bond issue for the wastewater plant and building that line to take that burden off of Schuler. Otherwise, we'll be modifying that just because of the growth in Brookline. So that's, when we're considering development, what's happening in Brookline definitely affects Schuler Creek, but this one here was actually perfect for Schuler Creek Lift Station.
And this is Schuler Creek down here. So if you look at the green lines, those are gravity-fed lines to Schuler Creek, which is located down here. And just for scale, it is literally at the southeast corner of the city. And then you can see this purplish line is actually the force main that goes all the way back up here to the wastewater treatment facility up here, just for general reference.
Thank you. Given all this information, Mr. Wilson.
There's 84 houses in this, right?
82, yeah. Yeah.
Is there just one road out to 174 going to handle all that?
Yes.
Go through the neighborhood?
Yeah, so the short answer is yes. At the point of rezoning, we do require all major commercial developments or residential developments to do a traffic impact study. So that was a part of our rezoning consideration. But Bailey Avenue will be a major corridor someday through our city. This actually makes a fairly a good contribution to that network. So it will connect Bailey, which is in the Westwood subdivision that's stubbed out here, all the way through Greenfield Estates to an existing portion of Bailey Avenue that goes all the way down to Hines Street, and then eventually it becomes a farm road, and then goes all the way down to this road here, which is Miller, which eventually there will be a connection, just kind of for reference, this is Schuler Creek here. Bailey Avenue is slated to be constructed along the eastern property line, and there will be an alignment for Bailey to connect from here over to this farm road. So it will truly be a corridor from the northern portion of our city all the way down to County Line Road someday.
And no direct access?
Yeah, no direct access to the road, so that's an important point. No actual like residential driveways would be allowed on that road.
Any other questions? As this is a resolution for a preliminary plat, we can move immediately to the vote, so I will say all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution passes 8-0. Moving on to item number 16 on our agenda, 20-R-35, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding the financial advisor services and authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement for said services. I need a motion and a second to take up resolution 20-R-35.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Parks is here to give us an overview.
Good evening. The City of Republic issued a request for qualifications for a municipal financial advisor. The city received one response from the firm Piper Sandler. We went ahead and did our due diligence, though, and interviewed the advisor firm and did our research on references. So Todd Goffey is the managing director and will be serving as the principal advisor assisting the city. Piper Sandler is a large financial advisory firm with a lot of municipal experience. In the past 3 years, they have helped secure $265,894,000 in water wastewater bonds. They have a broad range of clients, cities that range in size and in budgets. A few of them are St. Joseph, Grandview, Lebanon, Jefferson City, and Cape Girardeau, to name a few. The contract for services that are proposed here in the agenda today allows for assistance on city projects on an as-needed basis. A few of those types of services that they would assist the city with are development of economic development financial policies, debt issuance, development and oversight, investment programs, and financial planning and debt management. In simple terms, they will help us navigate very complex bonding issuances, certificates of participation, also help review our financial policies to make sure that we have the best scoring possible as we go in front of the rating agencies, and help the city navigate some exciting economic development possibilities, look at things like community improvement districts, traffic improvement districts, things of that nature. So basically, the city will utilize the services on a project needed basis, and this financial agent serves as our fiduciary agent in providing advice on these complex financial transactions. So basically, they represent us in the transaction, sort of like a real estate agent represents the buyer or the seller. The term of the financial services agreement is for 4 years. However, there is a 30-day termination clause included that would give the city an out if there was a conflict. Basically, the financial advisor, though I wanted to point out, will be paid from the funding issuances. So they serve as a consultant to us all the time, but basically their payout is when they help us navigate. For example, if we went out for a bonding issuance, their fee would come out at that time, is negotiated per the issuance. At this moment, staff is just recommending your review and approval of the financial advisory contract.
Do we have any questions or discussion from council?
Is this something that we've used before, or is this something exciting for you guys that we're going to?
This is something actually exciting. We have in the past had financial advisors who have assisted us, but not truly as our own fiduciary agent. So this is the first time that we have utilized our own financial advisor. We do have good working relationships with the previous people who helped us, who would still serve as an underwriter capacity. So,
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Cannon?
so just to elaborate on that, I think this is just another step in an internal control for us that I think from the community's perspective of protecting the interest of the integrity of how money is secured, that instead of there being someone that's kind of like, as Debbie's stating, it's someone that's a fiduciary that's actually working on our behalf to ensure that we're getting the best deal. When someone's like, and nothing that we don't trust those that have been the underwriting for us before, but this is another measure of control for us to demonstrate to maximize and protect the public's money, and making sure that we've gone through those steps to do that. They will help us achieve that, to maximize every opportunity we can do. And I think that that's just a level of expertise that we're adding to the team. What I love about the situation is just, it provides us that level, that phone call we can make. It's just an extra level of accountability. And I think when it comes to public funds, this is just a great instrument and an organization to put into place. So this is like really shoring up that piece of our mission statement when it comes to trust. So I think that's the best piece that I can say for what this is doing for us.
So is this pretty much covered for like a retainer fee, and they'll be paid when needed at the city?
They're only compensated upon if we were to issue bonds. Once that's done, there would be an administration fee that's added to it. There's not a retainer fee.
Okay.
It's just a fee that's added to any type of underwriting or bonds that we do. So they don't collect a dime unless they actually assist us with an underwriting.
Any other questions? All right, seeing no other questions, as this is a resolution, we can move directly to a vote. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to item number 17, 20-R-36, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to execute a first change order for the parking lot and driveway paving at the Republic Animal Control Facility. I need a motion and a second to take up resolution 20-R-36.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Nelson is here to give an overview. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item and actually the next agenda item are items that we need to come back to council with to close out our animal control facility project.
I've already messed it up, so just one at a time today.
Okay. We'll start with this one, but essentially, same problem on both. When we go out and we do these projects, a lot of times we find that we miss things. I missed some things in this case, so when I estimated the pavement, I didn't take into account that we would need to have probably a heavier pavement in the area where a trash truck would come and empty the dumpster, where the turning movements would be made, and then we added in some striping work as well. That resulted in an additional amount above the amount that we asked the council to approve with the resolution for that bid for the award to the animal control paving. So with that work complete, our actual invoice amount exceeds the approved amount by $5,325. So we're asking the council to consider approving the new amount for that bid.
Any questions on this resolution? Seeing none, I'd like to move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Moving on to item number 18, I have to read this whole thing. All right. 20-R-37, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to execute a first change order for the fencing and kennel construction at the Republic Animal Control Facility. I need a motion and a second to take up resolution 20-R-37.
Motion.
Second.
We have motion and seconds. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Same case here. On this bid, I left out dividers for the outside runs for the kennels. Admittedly, I'm not an expert on kennels, but we left those out. We've got to have those to keep the dogs and other animals from intermingling when we don't want them to. So we added that change to the authorized amount in the original resolution for the bid award for the fencing is $6,125. And to be clear, the work is complete.
Do we have any questions? Seeing no questions, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution carries 8-0. Moving on to item number 19. This is 20-R-38, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding the design, engineering, and architectural services relating to the development of a new community development / public works building and authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement for said services. I need a motion and a second to take up resolution 20-R-38.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is exciting for us. We've been working on consideration for a new facility for some time now. I know the council's aware of all the challenges with the current public works facility, but we did an RFQ, request for qualifications. We had a good return on those. We had, I believe, 8 firms reply to that RFQ. We scored those internally as a staff, and then we conducted a round of interviews. Ultimately, we settled on H Design, and then we went into negotiation for a scope and fee for the building. That includes a lot of different items, but essentially design, civil site work, construction management, and delivery of the bid through construction. So with that, we broke it out into tasks, as you'll see in the exhibit, but we have a bid for $399,952 for task 1 through 4, and then an additional optional task 5 for $43,345. And what that includes is future traffic improvements potentially at that site. So we're currently working with MoDOT and the county on future alignments of ZZ, Farm Road 101, and Farm Road 170. So we've left ourselves room in there. If there's potential traffic impacts or improvements we need to make to the intersection, we've left some room in there for design of that as well. So overall, we're sitting right at 10% as far as fee for architectural and design and our estimated cost of the project. Generally for architectural services, engineering services, and then construction and management for a project, you'll see it anywhere from 8 to 14%. So I feel like we're in the range that we're getting a good value for our dollar.
Thank you, sir. Does council have any questions or discussion?
So we built opportunities.
Yeah, if you're familiar with sorry. a good point. I should pull that
Pretty
up.
much like over there, like off of Easy and Hines area.
It is across from the high school. The city currently owns this L-shaped lot here, and that is the location that we've selected currently. Yep.
Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, as this is a resolution, we can move immediately to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution carries 8-0. Moving on to item 20, resolution 20-R-39, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding the bid for the Drury Lane extension. I need a motion and a second to take up this resolution 20-R-39.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we have Mr. Brickner here to give us an overview.
Good evening. So as part of the developers agreement for Garton Business Park, part of that agreement is finishing out Drury Lane, which in this case looks like adding about 500 linear feet of additional roadway with a large cul-de-sac on the end of that to allow for trucks to turn around with trailers. The city, as you all saw on Friday, those of you who went out, the city is actually doing a lot of the work ourselves. We're doing the earthwork, installing any additional utilities that need to be in place and crossings. The one thing we do need is a contractor to do the curb and gutter and asphalt. So we went out to bid for that. We also went out to bid for the final course on the rest of Drury Lane, which will finish that off, and a small repair for a small section that has kind of settled in the road. So just getting everything completed at this time. We had 4 responsive bidders, the lowest of which was Jernigan Construction at $147,000. Yeah. So staff is recommending award to Jernigan Construction.
Any questions from council? I actually have a question. So we don't have internal people that can do curbs, or is it just better to send it out?
We can do small curbs. We're pretty good at doing curb repairs, but on a project like this, they have large machines that can do that, and that's a lot easier, a lot cheaper, and the final product's a lot better.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Ken?
one thing that I would share is that it is our absolute goal to eventually buy a curb machine and a lay-down machine, but the staff is probably tired of me giving projects. But we'd love to have our own curb machine and lay-down machine, but that's down the road.
I felt like it was something that you would have.
It's a great question. It's a great question because one of the things that what we're doing with our crews that's saving the taxpayers a lot of money is so hard to quantify it with the work and the projects they're doing. We're just few pieces of equipment short of really achieving that extra opportunity and really capitalizing on opportunities for our community. But Andrew would probably tell me that, yeah, sure, Andrew, I'll answer it. He's messaging me, telling me to communicate. But yeah, I think there's an opportunity with the craftsmanship and the work that our crews can do, but with the right training, we can do that in the future. But I want to help them get through this season of construction without adding more to their work. But it's a great question. And I think it's something that I think with getting to see it last Friday, you got an optic of what it entails. And so we could do the whole turnkey jobs, but we're building our equipment pieces. There's a lot of rental pieces that are out there on that job right now that, we're just not in a position to own. And so, but eventually we'll get to the point where we own a machine. So we'll get there.
Andrew, blood pressure down, man. I didn't know I was walking into that.
I'll tell you what that text is about, and I can feel the financial director like staring at the back of my head. The biggest bullet point I probably had on our building resolution was that when it's time to build that building, we will come back to council. We will be issuing debt to build that building. Our estimate's $4 million. That's part of our obtaining our financial advisors to help us through that process. So what I've presented to you tonight is for design only, and gets us started on the project.
So Mr. Mayor, for those that are watching online, what was omitted not omitted, I guess, just was not communicated, was that we will be issuing some short-term debt to pay for a building, and the cost estimate of the building is $4 million. There you go, Andrew.
Thank you.
All right, we've gotten way off track. Let's get back on track.
Hey,
We're talking
as
about-
long as 816, Mary, 816.
All right, so we are on item number 20. This is a resolution 20-R-39. Are there any further questions for Mr. Burke? No other questions, and I will move for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution carries 8-0. Moving on to item number 21 on the agenda. This is 20-R-40, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the purchase of waterline materials for the Convoy of Hope project. I need a motion and a second to give this resolution.
Motion. Second.
We have motion and seconds. Mr. Burke.
So as David just said, he's trying to keep us as busy as possible. So as part of the developers agreement with Convoy of Hope that was approved earlier this evening, we are going to install the water main loop around Convoy of Hope's new warehouse at their new site. The city will be reimbursed the actual cost of that. So materials, labor, and equipment that all goes into that, we will be reimbursed for the portion that goes around their building. What this item actually is about is authorizing us to purchase the waterline materials. That's coming in at $80,169. So we need your approval to buy that stuff. So staff is recommending approval of that.
Do we have any questions or discussion about this resolution with Mr. Burke? Seeing none, I will move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, resolution carries 8-0. Moving on to item number 22, which is 20-R-41, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to dispose of 2 American General Humvees. Need a motion and a second.
Second.
All right. Chief Sells.
Thank you, Mayor. The police department has 2 former military Humvee vehicles that are not operational currently, and they have become costly to fix and maintain, and because of this, we are requesting to be able to dispose of them. If approved, the vehicles would be sold according to city policy, and any proceeds from the sale of the vehicles, it would be used to purchase some police equipment for us. Because the value could exceed $10,000, we are seeking City Council's approval to dispose of the vehicles by sale.
Do we have any questions or discussion from council? Seeing none, as this is a resolution, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Resolution passes 8-0. Reports from staff. You see, I told you, don't challenge me.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 22 items. I want to thank the staff. Scott, I know he worked this weekend to get these resolutions done. There's just a lot of development and opportunity going on in this community, and so it is no short order what was just presented to you tonight. There is a lot going on in this agenda. And I would encourage people that if you're looking at this, to take the chance to look at what was done tonight, not from the council's perspective, from a staff, from a community perspective. There's a whole lot going on here. And so I just appreciate the work to get this done. We asked Scott and Laura to go the extra mile on this one. This was not an easy task to get this done. But if there's a number of things on this agenda tonight that it's hard to convey, that are the timeline to build Drury Lane, there's a timeline for us to be done. The water materials were arriving yesterday. I go out and visit this site myself probably 2 or 3 times a week just to see and make sure we have everything, we have the right dump trucks, where we try to get everything done. And so I appreciate the work what everybody goes through to make this event, to set up this room, to present. I hope, well, I guess I do hope that every meeting we have 22 agenda items, because it demonstrates what we've got going on. The other piece that's very important here that I want to, communicate and appreciate is that we made a couple of adjustments to some development opportunities tonight. Snow load, what's that got to do thing. When you realize that you have something that is not working or would need, cost prohibitive for a development because it's something that just needs to be adjusted, I appreciate the swift nature of the staff to look at that and say, well, that's what the code says. Well, is it what needs to be in the code? And so for Scott, the staff, and everyone to work quickly and swiftly, we preach processes, relationships, trust. It's a process improvement. We need to make the development community, we need to continue to work with what those messages are. And we're not just going to change the code for the sake of, oh, this would be good, and we want this to happen. It's got to be responsible. So I appreciate the responsible nature and these responsible additions. This is the second PDD amendment. So what I love about that is we changed the PDD a couple of years ago as part of the Valley Trails edition, or the off of Lynn Street. But staff found there was things like, we could improve that. So those are the things that we're doing on the development side. People ask us, what are you doing? To make it better. Why is it getting so much easier to do business? It's because we move swiftly and you allow us to bring these changes to you. These are not mistakes. These are just when we see it. The world, it doesn't take 10 years of leaving a resolution or an ordinance in place. It needs to be modified every 2 years. We need to do that. Which I want to segue, Lynn, I appreciate the mitigation plan. There's a whole lot in that document that's so hard to capture tonight, but the work that went into providing that mitigation plan, the things that are included, and you're correct, there's things in that mitigation plan that by the time it was getting approved and we're going to already be past it, it's going to need to be modified. But those tasks are no small order, and I appreciate the work that you put in, given the trying times of COVID. And sometimes 86 pages is hard to review and cover. It can be tedious, but I know there's a lot of work and sweat equity that went into that on your behalf, and I appreciate that. The work that you do every day during storm season to keep us safe and to report those things, to keep us safe at the mud run as well when the big storm hit. So I appreciate your work. I want to talk about the Parks and Recreation Department, Public Safety, Public Works, those that participated in the last 3 weekends. I said 3, it's actually been 4 because with Movies in the Park this last weekend, that represented 4 consecutive weekends that our Parks program put together events that brought the community out to participate. Both Mud Run events were absolutely outstanding and first-class events. Have a Blast, I thought, was absolutely fantastic. I appreciated the effort to relocate the food court, the steps that went into place to spread the community out, the extra 12 acres that taking away all the children's activities. I don't want to say we just took away from the kids, but we had to. It was something that was important to provide that opportunity. I appreciate the staff and the work, but for 4 weekends in a row, which is one of those being on Labor Day, just to think that like what I was communicating when I left Have a Blast that night, there was just a tremendous amount of pride in the work of what a public servant is and what they're doing to provide that opportunity, because it was something that brought the community out. Just a moment. It's been a rough year. And so to pull something like that off and to do it in a way that was responsible, to distance folks out and to do that, I really appreciate that work. There was just a sense of pride because of, when you think about who we are and what we do every day, our job is to serve the public as public servants. And so just to think, to bring that together, to sacrifice their weekend, their Labor Day, when they worked all weekend long, I just want to say to you that how much it means to me to be your leader and how much I appreciate participating and watch you do your job and what you sacrifice for the community. So we'll provide some additional time off for that effort. But I know that you take the time, to Jared, to you and your team, they're first class opportunities. They're definitely memorable experiences. And I think that just represents, that attitude reflects your leadership. And so thank you for your work. For the public safety that's using our tanker trucks to load water to the mud run, it's just, I see the whole machine working. And it's just, it's awesome just to see it done, because when the project's over, the staff is still there. The very next morning, the staff is there to clean that property up, and so it'll make it look like it's parked again. And so I just appreciate the work that's going on there. And so I'm going to probably cut that short. But there's one thing, Gary, that I think that you'll see when you bring up the transportation needs in these developments. I think we're going to have to take a long, hard look at our processes for how we're going to recover on these developments, because we've got a lot of development. We have 1,000 properties, pieces of residential, some sort of, what would we call it, dwellings? Maybe a good way to say dwellings. There's some that are multifamily. We're currently working on 1,000 dwellings, spaces in this community. So when you think about that, and every one of those dwellings represents 10 cars a day, it's something that you have to look at and say, what is the impact to our streets, and who's going to eventually pay for the expansion when there's a benefit to the development? we have to figure out ways that we're gonna recover and expand our streets in an appropriate and responsible way. So it's something that we're gonna have to, as an organization, take a serious look at is, are the taxpayers gonna bear all that, or can we share some of that with the development in and of itself? And so I'm not gonna dig into the weeds of that, but there are opportunities, and I've experienced this, and administrated this type of policy before, but it's something when I look at what's going on with the growth and development of the community, you know, putting all that on some sort of ballot issue is not gonna cover all those through streets and how we're gonna move people through in and around our community. So that's gonna we're gonna take a good hard look at what that looks like for the future. But that's not a policy decision we're gonna make tonight or something we're gonna change. It'd be something we would take in consideration with the development community. It's not something that, we work so hard to make sure we make it easier for development. We're not gonna try to do something that makes it cost prohibitive. But we've gotta take a good hard look at what it's gonna take for us to develop our transportation system and improve it, because it's something that's gonna need a lot of work in the future. So I just, let's make sure I don't. Oh, and last but not least, I want to thank you for your time again last Friday. Again, I don't take it lightly that you have to take time away from your business. And I understand it's a large ask, and I'm sorry that not everybody could go, but I promise you I will take you to anyone that did not get to go on a tour to show you that. There's nothing, it's not like a one-time only. It's very important that we bring the projects to everyone. And so, you know, there's other people that I have that are asking, hey, can I go on that and take it again? We'll offer it again. To drive around and look at what's going on in the community, because it's important to discuss those. But I just, Ryan, I thank you for your participation and you being there. It was great to have you and just to share what's going on. I mean, we're trying to be open and transparent as much as we can. You know, we have a lot of development opportunity that we're working on, and we just got to be responsible with that, make sure that we're communicating that in the appropriate fashion. But there's just a lot of opportunity for this community. And I don't believe that it's by chance. I believe it's very intentional. I believe it starts with the right alignment from the mayor, the council, the leadership, the staff. We're all working in concert as to what that should look like. This is not just something growing for the sake of growth. It's very intentional, and I just appreciate the manner by which you all do it. It will allow us to work, and it will allow us to operate, but it was fun to showcase what that effort is doing and what we're seeing in our community as a result. But it starts with leadership, and it's going to end with leadership. And so I appreciate the leadership in this room that's encapsulated in everyone that's here, from a mayor, council, staff. I just appreciate the work that's going on and the vision and the direction that we're going. I look forward to communicating that even further, because it's going to take some really tough decisions in the future. And I'm looking forward to communicating what that is, but I'm confident in our resilience and our ability to overcome that, communicate that, and see it come to fruition. Our best is truly yet to come, and I'm just thankful to be a part of it. So thank you, that's all I got. I didn't get to 8:16, but I tried.
I thought you were going to get there. Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Do we have any reports from council? Mr. Franklin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I don't mean to be an echo chamber, but I'd also like to thank Mr. Cameron and all of the staff that made that bus tour possible. That was a vital tool, in my opinion, an excellent opportunity for all of us. A lot of great information, great things to share with the community. So very, very thankful for that tour. I'm also very excited the fact we got to tour the animal control facility and see the progress that had been made there, and that's very exciting. And thanks again to everyone for all of those weekends. That was a lot of weekends, a lot of time between the mud run, Have a Blast, all of the great stuff. We know that built a lot of good memories and a lot of fun for our community, and we couldn't ask for more in a time of stress this year. But thank you for all of that, and very thankful for all the city staff and keeping Republic moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Mr. Franklin, I think Mr. Nelson has a rebuttal for you.
Uh-oh.
Let me see if I can interject one more time. Grand opening animal control this weekend, this Saturday.
This Saturday?
Yep. What time?
10 to 2.
10, yeah.
10 to 2.
Thank you. Any other reports from council? Ms. Poole?
I appreciate the tour because I had no idea that Brookline had made as many business places as they have. I was elated to think that we've grown that much in the length of time that we've had been consolidated with them. And I appreciate your effort and the time that you've put in, because I know it's not a simple thing to organize something and get as many people as you had involved. and I appreciate that very much. And like I said, I had no idea that it was as developed as it has been. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Convoy of Hope and the other things that's coming in out there.
Anyone else? Seeing no one else, we are going to go into executive session. No further action other than announcing adjournment by the mayor shall take place after the executive session that is scheduled as the last matter on the agenda unless otherwise stated on the agenda or as allowed by per RSMO 610.021. We will be covering number 1, RSMO 610.021.1, legal actions, causes of actions, or litigation, and any confidential or privileged communications between a public governmental body or its representatives and its attorneys. Closed session, closed vote, closed record. 2, RSMO 610.021.2, leasing, purchasing, or sale of real estate, closed session, closed vote, closed record. And 3, RSMO 610.021.3, hiring, firing, promotions, or disciplining personnel, closed session, closed vote, closed record. I need a motion and a second to go into executive session.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Self.
Aye.
Councilmember Franklin.
Aye.
Councilmember Poole.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson.
Aye.
Councilmember Dykeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Russell.
Aye.
Councilmember Updike. Councilmember Mitchell.
Motion carries 8-0. The council meeting is adjourned. We will take a 2-minute break. 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
No, 2 minutes.
You still trying to make that 18?
No. That ain't gonna be it.